And ooh, that's hot. This is hot. Ooh, it's hot. In my head, I'm saying, please work, please work, please work. Your PS5 is too hot and it will be powering off soon. If this doesn't work, I'm going to add liquid metal again. I'm going to add more liquid metal and I'm going to drown it in liquid metal until I can't add any more. So today I've got a PlayStation 5. This one came in because it was powering off. They said that it would play how it's supposed to play for a little while, and then after some time, it'll recycle or reboot. Now, just taking a look at the board, what I see is an M.2 expansion SSD. I see that this HDMI port had been replaced before because we've got some old solder paste here. But I guess let's just turn it on and see what we can figure out. Let's see what happens when we press the power button. All right, so we've got power. I guess what I'll do is I'll go ahead and play a game. 2K. Takes Two. Never heard of that. Ooh, what is this? Let's play Demon Slayer. So this PlayStation is powered on. At this point, I don't understand why it was dropped off. Is it overheating? It's not bad, and it hasn't powered off yet. So, ooh, that's hot. But these are supposed to be hot. These are voltage regulator modules. What they do is they take 12 volts from our prongs here, which plug directly into our AC power supply, and they step it down to maybe like 1V8 or 1.1, something that can be used by our APU. And our APU is just a combination of our CPU and our GPU. Around our APU, what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 RAM chips, each 2 gigabytes, which add up to make to 16 gigabytes of RAM. We've got storage here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on the opposite side as well. And then also here where you see all of these capacitors at, there is a controller chip, a storage controller chip or hub or something like that. I already pointed out our M.2 or M2 expansion SSD. And so maybe he's got like 2K or Fortnite or something saved on here. I don't know. When this one first released, it was just for PlayStation 4 games. But then they created something that allows PS5 games to be saved on here. But even before you could use this M.2 expansion slot for PS4 games, you couldn't use it at all upon release. Like I said, HDMI port had been replaced before. We can see flux. We've got our Wi-Fi chip here. What else can I see? I think there is a lot more on the back of the PS5 board, but here we go right here. Your PS5 is too hot. I don't know if you guys saw that. Your PS5 is too hot and it will be powering off soon. So I wonder why that occurred. I have had PlayStations on before when fan is not connected, because fan is not connected at this point. I've played games with fan not connected and it's never overheated and powered off as soon as this one had overheated and powered off. A lot of the times when the PlayStation 5 does overheat and power off the way this PlayStation 5 did, I start to suspect something. Whenever I get a call or whenever someone reaches out to me and they say, hey, we've got this PlayStation 5 and it works. That's a telltale sign. It powers on, but after a while, it powers off. And you say, what could that be? It powers on, but you can play your game for 5 minutes and it powers off. I remember at one point I had a PC, a desktop PC that would power on for maybe 5 minutes, maybe a lot less. And I could do what I needed to do, and then it would power off like that. And when I say I changed everything, I changed everything. I replaced graphics card. I replaced power supply. I changed the housing it was in because a lot of the other peripherals are connected to the housing. I replaced RAM sticks. I reseated our RAM. I did everything. And in the end, I just had to go ahead and replace the CPU. So I will say A PlayStation 5 and a gaming PC are different. I was going to say a lot different, but at the very least, they are different. And ooh, that's hot. This is hot. Ooh, it's hot. And so this PS5 doesn't have a replaceable SSD or a replaceable APU, but you can access something that is directly touching. Ooh, that is hot. The APU, and that thing is liquid metal. I can directly manipulate liquid metal. If you look here, hopefully you guys can see we've got a dry patch in our liquid metal. I will say, usually, because this is pretty common on a lot of PlayStation 5s, is a dry patch of this size on of liquid metal on an APU. And you don't usually get overheating problems of this magnitude, but I'm going to still go ahead and replace liquid metal anyway, or at least add some and see what happens. Will I still get an overheating problem? And then also, like I said earlier, we've got this issue where when I click into a game, my controller just stops working for some reason. So I wonder what could cause that problem as well. I just recently bought this liquid metal thermal compound. And I want to mention that if you've ever got a PlayStation 5 that overheats, liquid metal and thermal paste are not interchangeable. And you don't want to put thermal paste where your liquid metal should go. I think that is rule number one, maybe. I don't know. Don't put liquid metal where your thermal paste should go. Now, usually there is a lot of liquid metal here, and that's probably why it overheated so quickly. This dry patch is pretty common, but usually the liquid metal has went from, say, here down to this area or around the chip. And I guess that's fine. But in this case, it's just like completely dry. I don't know where it went. So what I'll do is I'll add a bit of liquid metal here. And, ooh, that's a lot. I was told that a little bit goes a very long way. So I want to break it up. And I've seen on someone else's video before that they sucked in liquid metal actually like this and just replaced it and put it other places. So that's what I'll do. Cool. This Q-tip came with the pack, and I just want to spread it out as much as I can. So that's pretty good. I guess let's just add a little more because, like I said, this thing was getting really, really hot. Really, really hot. And that's definitely not a good thing. Now, this looks good. Look, it's not perfect, but it looks good. There is liquid metal everywhere it should be. But now there's more. Okay. So what I'll do, because looking inside the PlayStation, looking inside our vents, looking inside where our fan is supposed to go, I don't see a major amount of dust that would cause our PlayStation to overheat within 5 minutes, less than that. I pointed out roaches. Roaches can get inside of your power supply. And once roaches get inside of your power supply, I guess they short out components. But this power supply isn't bad. It's still outputting 12 volts. It's getting to our motherboard, and it allows our PlayStation 5 to power on. So I don't necessarily, even though it had roaches, I don't expect for that to be our issue. So what I can do next, once or after I've added liquid metal, is I'll plug our PlayStation back in, plug our socket back into our AC power supply. and I want to play a game. That's what I want to do. I want to play a game. And I want to play a game for, I don't know, maybe 20 to 30 minutes straight, possibly even an hour. And I don't want this thing to overheat. And that's the only way I'll trust it enough to give it back. Because if I can play a game for about an hour and everything is fine. Now, I will be sure, at least this time, to go ahead and add my fan back. Like I said, I doubt my fan is our issue, but you know what? You can never be too safe. So let's add this here. Flip it around, because if I were to put it inside, this little black part spins and it would just go crazy. So let's flip it over. And then extremely important, we want to add our metal clamps that go on top of our PlayStation 5 motherboard, even before our silver plate. I think I almost say this in every video, but without this, most of the time, your PlayStation will power off within like 10 seconds. And you will question what's your issue, or like what had you done wrong? And the answer is nothing. Now, besides my fan being plugged in, I want everything to be the same. I don't want there to be any variables in our test. So what I'll do is I'll make sure to plug in, again, my M.2 SSD into our M.2 SSD expansion slot, just so that I can rule out, which is very, very highly unlikely, that our SSD is our issue. So plug our controller back in. I also want to plug power once again, as well as my HDMI port into our HDMI port that had been replaced, like I said. And once again, what I'll do is I'll click my power button, or you know what? I'll just allow it to boot from my controller. There we go. I pressed the power button on my controller and I booted it up, because I had already previously connected it with my USB-C cable. So our fan is spinning, which is good. We've got blinking blue light, not quite on yet, but when it goes full white, it will be. This one may or may restart, because it powered off from overheating not too long ago, remember? So here it is, automatically restarting. If you don't want it to restart, you hold power button for maybe, a few seconds. It'll beep twice and it'll power off. So it's blinking again, because like I said, it restarted. It'll go full white in a second, and then we can play a game. That's the fun part. Okay, didn't turn off properly. I get it. I get it. Don't want to adjust my display. And here we are. Okay, let's attempt to play Demon Slayer again, because I know there are some people out there who love anime. My PlayStation isn't as hot as it was previously, but it's still a little warm. It's still a bit warm. Okay, so we could have some kind of permission on here that doesn't allow me to play the game, which is rude. Oops. but I won't complain. So I need to figure out what kind of permission wouldn't allow me to play a game. Because whatever it is, I need to get it. Okay. So it seems to be a controller issue. Our fan is getting loud. It's getting really loud. Our PS5 is getting hot. It sounds like a race car. And our PS5 is too hot. Turn off your PS5 and wait until the temperature goes down. So our PlayStation 5 overheated again. I have no clue why it overheated, but I will say it took a little longer this time to overheat. Let's turn it off. Our fan got super, super loud. Super loud. Okay. So oftentimes when I replace liquid metal, I don't have this issue anymore. So now I am confused. But what I can do is test it without this M.2 expansion SSD and see if we can get more time before our PS5 powers off. So let's do that. I've never heard of this issue before, but let's try it again. Also, if this doesn't work, I'm going to add liquid metal again. I'm going to add more liquid metal, and I'm going to drown it in liquid metal until I can't add any more. And hopefully that works, because if not, I may have to take a look at the motherboard. Heating up again. Fan's getting really, really loud. And I expect it to power off soon. Here we go. Okay. No big deal. So we've ruled out M.2 expansion slot as our issue because we unplugged it and our PlayStation did the same thing. I think one of the most difficult things for me when I started repair, and something that was of extreme importance to me, was I wanted to learn I wanted to learn a problem solver's mindset. I think one of the most difficult things for me when I first started was how to diagnose things. Not because diagnosing is difficult, but because you just don't have the mindset yet. And when I say a problem solver's mindset, or the ability to diagnose, let's just say, I remember one time I was at somebody's house and their like Roku box wasn't working. And she asked me, she said, "Hey, can you fix this?" And I say, "Yeah, I can fix it. Let me just check it out," because I'm so confident. I fix stuff for a living. I'm an engineer. I've got a computer science degree. I should be able to fix anything. So what I did was I unplugged her TV and I plugged it back in. And that didn't work. And I unplugged her Roku box and I plugged it in a different socket. And that didn't work. And I took her batteries out of her remote, and that didn't work. And I took a Roku box and I put it back in the same socket, and for some reason it powered on. And it's like a pretty simple story. It's pretty simple steps, but for someone who doesn't have a problem solver's mindset, or for somebody who doesn't understand how to diagnose, the first thing they do is they call their like father or something, or mom, or they call tech support and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And then tech support says, "Did you turn it off and turn it back on? Did you power it off and power it back on?" And then you say no. And then you just turn off your device and turn it back on and it works again. Or you get people that come to a repair shop and, "Look, I have no problem with this." And they say, "Hey, my phone is having an issue." And then you just volume up, volume down, hold power button until you see Apple logo. And their phone restarts and it goes back to normal. And they say, well, what did you do? It's like, I just restarted it. So I guess you can say problem solver's mindset is kind of like a willingness to try things, to troubleshoot and see what your issue might be. And after a while, you figure it out. You know, if you've got a device that isn't working, well, you know, if your phone isn't charging, the first thing you should do is see if your power cord is functional. Take another device that you have and use the same power cable and see if that works. And if that power cable works with your other device, but not the one that won't charge, then maybe you should head to your local or nearest repair store because you may possibly have a real issue. But before then, you've just got to troubleshoot and figure it out and see what you can and can't, you know, what works and what doesn't, and just go from there. So here I am adding more liquid metal because honestly, this is my last and only hope before I say, you know what, let's take a look at this motherboard. Let's take out the motherboard. Let's flip it around, which I've already done right now, and let's just take a look at it. And I can actually, I can do that now, actually. So I want to add as much liquid metal as possible. And I know a lot of people, they like to have it here in the middle, but every PS5 board I've seen after a while, it slides down and you've got a lot of extra in the cracks and crevices here, which I don't mind. So let's just, I'm gonna actually put it here on purpose. That's just my opinion. You're gonna put it in the corners on purpose. So there you go. This thing is full of liquid metal now. Now, if we still have issues, I can't blame liquid metal. That was my goal. Okay, so this is our storage controller hub. These are our storage chips. I'm not 100% sure, but these may have 512 gigabytes each. This is our backup RAM that backs up these 8 2 gigabyte apiece RAM chips. This is our buzzer. When our PlayStation 5 says beep, or when it beeps twice when the power's off, this is what controls that. This is our 3-volt battery. Every time I turn the system on, it knows the date and time. This stores our date and time. These are the prongs that plug into our power supply. This gives us power, and power comes from these prongs here to our voltage regulator modules that steps down those 12 volts and supplies power to our APU. Let's plug this thing back in and see if, hopefully the answer is no, it will restart again. In my head, I'm saying, please work, please work, please work. Before I do that, though, I want to take a look at the back of the, man, that's a lot of liquid metal. That is a lot of liquid metal. And I'm okay with that. But this stuff is going to get everywhere. Like I said, before I put this thing back together, I want to take this apart because I want to make sure the vents that allow for air, hot air to exit our PS5. I want to make sure that those are clean because that could cause us to overheat. So I took out the 2 screws from the back of the PlayStation 5, and now I can remove everything now, actually. Almost everything except my power supply, which has roaches. They are dead though. And what I see here is a lot of I see a lot of dust, and especially when you have an overheating problem, dust can be your enemy. So let's clean this up. Let's give you guys an update. I just noticed something that made me actually smile. So here's the deal. I went ahead and I took my PlayStation apart, not just from the top, but from the back. So I undid my 2 screws on the back. I pulled out my entire frame. I cleaned it up, the vents. I cleaned up my power supply as well. I put everything back in. So everything is clean. I plugged back in my M.2 slot because I want everything to be the same, no variables. And my fan is still plugged in. The only thing I haven't plugged in yet, I was going to say, is my light, but I plugged my light in. Let's try it and test it out one more time, because I think that this thing is going to work. Even after replacing liquid metal and cleaning up vents, I'm still having the same issue, unfortunately. So what I did as a last resort was replace power supply, because like I said, the system did have roaches in the past, even though they were dead. And roaches oftentimes short out our power supply. So I replaced it, and now I want to test it one more time to see if this thing powers off after 15 minutes or if it can stay on. So everything seems pretty good. I've had it running for the past 10, 15 minutes. It seems to be working just fine. So for anyone who wanted to know, our issue ended up being power supply, but I also replaced our vents on the back of our PlayStation motherboard. I replaced this. And not only did I replace power supply, our heat vents, I also replaced this, which puts pressure on our APU along with the screws. So after replacing those 3, I was able to run my PlayStation 5. I didn't have any issues with it powering off, and that should be a successful PlayStation 5 no power repair. Hey, if you liked the video, if you learned something, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And then you guys have a great rest of your day.